Good morning. This is one of those episodes that I would definitely say that even though we are protected by distance and screen, we still have our bulletproof vests on. Kind of pun intended. That was probably not in good taste. But I wanted to go ahead and say, as we talk about the ICE raids in Chicago today, there's a chance that things could get a little volatile here. And we're not scared of that. I just want to make sure that as we're laying out context here, you listen to everything that we said, which is what no one typically does. Everything that we're going to say as we seek to move toward a way forward. Jason and I are here representing what we believe would be a Christian thought life, and then action life as it relates to how we move forward with the issue. That's why the show is called The Way Forward. See, I connected the dots there for you, those of you who have not been here before. And so we're going to talk about this. Jason's coming on here in just a few moments, but I wanted to let you guys know this is a serious subject matter. And as we look forward to other serious things that we talk about here, we always start with a word of prayer. So let's get Jason on here today. My man. Got him up at 8:30.
Hey, I was with the schedule, sleeping in till 8 o'clock is like sleeping in because that's crazy. I'm up early typically.
Yeah,
So you gave me. It's when you want to. It's when you want to get me up at like 6 and 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
I know. That's rude. That's so rude. I need to stop doing that.
You can run on 4 hours of sleep and be just Erskine. I start running on 4 hours of sleep and
Well, it's cumulative, right? Because you run on 4 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. It catch up with you at some point. So you need that Saturday to recharge. And so I'm glad that I could let you sleep in just a little bit today. We got a good one today.
Thanks for letting me sleep in. That's good.
Yeah. Praise the Lord. Well, we're going to talk about the ICE enforcement in Chicago. Chicago, wake up, Chicago. We're talking about you this morning. And if you want to join the show, the comment section is turned on. You'll see that somewhere on your screen that you can make live comments. And the more comments you make, the more people are invited to the room, so to speak, with the algorithm. And it's exactly what we want. We want all of America to probably tune in for this one, because this is going to be a good one today. So, Jason, I know that there's a lot on the agenda for today. So why don't you go ahead and lead us in a word of prayer, and then we'll get started here.
Yeah, Father, we're just so thankful this morning that your mercies are new, and we just ask, Lord, for wisdom and discretion as we talk, and help us to help the church move forward, and help us be firm in the truth and rich in mercy, and help us, Lord, to be wise, not in our own eyes, for that is evil, but to seek first your kingdom's righteousness, trusting you'll provide all we need. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, get a couple tags out of the way. Yeah, I'll be using some source material that is not my own creation, non-proprietary material, and so it is covered under the clause of fair use. We'll be doing a little bit of teaching, a little bit of research, a little bit of scholarship, a little bit of discussion that are related to it. So we'll change and alter it as is needed. If you've not already subscribed to the show, I don't know what you're waiting for. That can be done so easily with the click of a button, and you won't miss a single episode of The Way Forward. You won't want to miss a single episode, and you especially don't want to miss this episode. As we were talking off air, Jason, you mentioned that there should be some context that is given before I show any video. And so I've got a couple of videos that are queued up and ready to go. I got some sound bites that are queued up and ready to go. But bring us into the larger discussion and let us perhaps revolve around what is a context that we'll be speaking from today.
Yeah, I think it's good as I've gotten older, God willing, a little wiser, I've been thinking about context, and just these discussions that we're having are so volatile, and we just kind of miss the overall context. And I think you'll even hear some of that today, just with some of the folks who are talking in the videos. But since early fall, when President Trump took office, he said he's going to be dealing with the immigration issue that we had under the Biden administration, which got out of control, right? We've always been a country who has tried to say, give us your tired, give us your poor, give us your immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
But we've often had a hard time figuring out the legal way to do that well, right? And I think that's kind of what was the broader issue on the docket.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since the fall, this is crazy because Trump has not even been in office a full year yet, right? He took office in January. and this man got busy. So it's he got busy, and since early fall, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and ICE has kind of been running this interior um, domestic surge, if you will, of trying to get illegal immigrants, particularly ones who are committing crimes, in the United States. And
Okay.
in our area in Chicago, I think it's called Operation Midway Blitz or something like that. And so this is provoked protest and violence. To the point now, if I'm not mistaken, a federal judge has ordered ICE agents to wear body cam stuff so that they can pretty much document everything that's going on to deal with some of the um, allegations that are being put out there. And the reason why this is happening, in particular with Chicago and Portland, but I think in particular Chicago, is because Chicago has restrictive cooperation rules for civil immigration enforcement. So this is where you get the term sanctuary city. So
Okay.
Chicago is a sanctuary city, and that means that local police generally do not help ICE with civil immigration actions unless the judge orders it to happen, which we saw this in Chicago. And you also saw a massive pushback against this idea of dividing the police forces. Um, and so you have the sanctuary city policies that are creating restrictive things, and what that simply means is um, officers of the law are not allowed to ask certain questions about people or to find out immigration status and things like that. So, like the Illinois Trust Act of 2021 limits local participation in civil immigration enforcement.
Can
That's
I
one of the things.
can
Yep.
I just insert one quick thing?
Hmm.
Because there might be some people who are watching this today who don't know that you actually are a resident in Illinois.
Yes, I
So
am.
this
Yeah.
is not something that you were talking about from afar.
No.
I'm talking about it from Nashville, Tennessee. We
Yeah.
have our own situation that's going on here in Nashville, but this is more close to home. Although
Yeah.
you're not in Cook County, you are a resident of Illinois.
We have to deal with all of Chicago's politics,
Yeah,
all
so
of
I
them.
thought I should mention
So,
that.
yes. And so also Chicago's Welcome to City ordinance um, pretty much bars city employees, including the police department, from assisting in civil immigration enforcement, except when a court or federal law requires it. Um, and so that's the context of Chicago. That's some of the laws and policies around the city. Now, where they're clashing is that DHS argues that these limits impede dealing with criminal offenders, and it also puts them in jeopardy when they're trying to carry out federal things. And so that's what you're seeing in Chicago. You're seeing that happen right now. It's exploding. These policies that have been put in place, and this culture has been developed in the city, impede the ability to actually carry out lawful retaining of illegal aliens or criminal illegal aliens.
Okay.
And so that's the context that's happening inside of Chicago. And I'm sure it's happening in Portland and other sanctuary cities. Um, but essentially, what's happening is these local agencies are restricting cooperation, and they're protecting the constitutional rights of illegal aliens, which is kind of a bit problematic since they're here illegally. People would argue that they don't necessarily have full constitutional rights, right? I mean, they're human beings by all means, and you need to treat them as such. But
Mhm.
to give them full constitutional rights, that's what belongs to citizens. So now, where I think you're finding a conflict, at least in our circle, right, is is that Christians now have to hold this tension between advocating that serious offenders, criminals, need to be transferred out, need to be deported, while at the same time, you can't just have this sweeping policy that also gets rid of people who are trying to make a life for themselves legally. That's a context of tension I think we're trying to deal with. I saw it in
Okay.
Texas
Okay.
when I lived in Texas because my eyes were opened when I had a lot of my students who were these immigrants coming in. I saw their families and I got to know them and care about them. And um, I saw dad working 60, 80 hours a week to try to provide for his family. I saw families living in really poor conditions, but trying to make a better life for their kids. I mean, I got to see both sides of it.
Hmm.
So I just don't think a sweeping policy is going to fix this. And I do believe that political people are using this to polarize the country even more. And so
Okay.
I just want to provide a nice context of something that, this is what's going down and this is why things are happening a little bit. I'm not an expert, but what I've watched kind of studied a little bit and watched, this is what I'm seeing. Make
Okay.
sense? Okay.
Okay. That's a good overview. Again, I would want to position myself not as an expert as well, but I want to look at and get your response to Gail King, because Gail King is the touchstone of all things newsworthy and true.
Chicago. We saw ICE agents throwing tear gas at protesters this week, and now there's new video of a deliberate collision as agents chase down two suspects. People who live there say they are now living in fear. Usher Qureshi spoke to some of them, and he joins us now. Usher, good morning to you. What can you tell us?
Here at the ICE facility in Broadview, which has been a flashpoint for recent protests, the scene was calm last night as demonstrators obeyed a new protest curfew put into place by the Broadview mayor. But it was a different story elsewhere in the Chicago area earlier this week. And a warning, some of the video you're about to see may be disturbing.
This video shows the end of a high-speed car chase in Chicago Tuesday. DHS says U.S. Border Patrol agents driving a white SUV intentionally hit the back of a car to apprehend two undocumented immigrants. Police say a crowd formed, and as officers moved in to calm the scene, some people threw objects at federal agents. In response, the agents deployed tear gas, hitting both protesters and officers, and made several arrests. Juanita Garnica says her 16-year-old son was detained.
Nobody called me. Nobody did anything.
In recent weeks, we've seen confrontations with immigration officers escalate across the Chicago area, sparking fear and outrage. Federal agents detained this young man outside a Walgreens and pulled this woman out of a car near a school. DHS accused her of stalking an ICE vehicle.
They don't have a warrant.
And this video shows ICE agents
They
slamming
don't
a
need
man
a
to the
warrant for that.
ground.
That's
He was
public.
carried
That's
away
public
on a
place.
stretcher.
What's the feeling in the community right now?
So sad, scary.
On Wednesday, this group canvassed homes and
All right. Let me pause there. I don't want to run over a comment that you were going to make there, but yeah. And it kind of goes on in that regard as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, generally speaking, you need a search warrant. I mean, to go into someone's house, right? If you look up, Peyton versus New York, 1980 requires that. Now, there is exigent circumstances that can allow somebody to go in there. I don't know what exactly that is. I don't know, but out in the public, they don't need a search warrant. They don't need a warrant to arrest you. They can pull you out of your car and they can pull you on the street. And so I think also that they can. Yeah, I mean, there has to be certain circumstances for them to be able to go in there and get you out
Sure.
of the house, but in your car in public places, no, that's not necessary.
Okay. Um, I'm going to leave that comment on the screen. Howard, thanks for watching this morning. And there may be some others who are watching who probably are burning with this question. There is a proper procedure for search and seizure, arrest, detainees. Does any of this bother you, that perhaps some of this goes beyond the pale of that in detaining people who are legal citizens for
Well,
extended periods of time?
I think if it was more one-sided, maybe. I don't want to see legal citizens get arrested for immigration. I think that's ridiculous. I think mistakes happen, and that will get worked out because if you have the right to be here, then you'll be here. The problem where I think this is losing sympathy, like this is losing ground, are these protests are violent. Like the news is reporting that it was the ICE agent's fault for hitting that car, even though it was a high-speed chase in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So what happens if a bystander got killed because those two illegal immigrants were speeding through and killed a pedestrian, right? The whole thing changes. What America is watching and what the rest of Illinois is watching is these violent protests where you have people coming out to attack ICE agents and to attack our rule of law. That's what they're seeing, and that's not sitting well
Let me
at all.
let me ask a
So,
question
uh-huh.
because I'm a little confused, and help me understand this. You're saying that America is seeing the violence of the protests, while on the other hand, I think that America is also seeing, if I could use the term, a measure of injustice of people who are being detained, and at least telling their stories and at least talking about what it is that their experience has been unlawfully, unconstitutionally.
What
And
what
so,
what
which one of those
equates that?
narratives do you think is actually
Well, I think they're both
winning?
blurred, but I don't know if you're. Well, I mean, the overall, what I'm would be seeing is, I don't think it's an overall injustice. I think there are stories out there where people have been maybe wrongly arrested, and that needs to get worked out. But what you're seeing is somebody's having to come in. When we allowed, I don't know how many millions of undocumented illegals into the country under the Biden administration, and now they're trying to clean it up and get things in the right track, particularly with the criminals. Um, this is going to be blurry no matter what. I mean, you've got to go in and now detach people from the community they're in because they weren't here legally.
So, sure. And I don't want to miss that point that we are both advocating for the rule of law and
Right.
the redress of evil in our society and in our culture. How do we ferret this out? Because I'm pretty sure there's going to be people who are watching this, maybe some people who are watching this from Chicago and saying, no, you're only sharing one side of this because on the side of the population, there are people who have been detained. In fact, I'm going to play a report from one of the Chicago residents, and that part is not being reported. And then the other part of it is not being reported, that these are violent protests and these are people who have come to the city legally and they're being protected and shielded, as it were, by not just the city laws and the city officials, but Governor Pritzker has also encouraged people to stand down. The mayor of Chicago encouraged people to stand down in terms of the police force responding and helping in conjunction with these ICE raids. So there's a lot of stuff that it seems to be one-sided. How do we
Well,
figure that out?
I mean,
Like
Pritzker even
injustice,
is encouraged to fight back, which I think. When is that man going to be held accountable for his nonsense?
that man, Governor Pritzker, right?
Yeah,
That's who you're speaking of.
encourage people to fight back against the law enforcement. That's insane. That's inciting violence. That's crazy. That's crazy. And fighting back against that with violence is not going to work. It never goes well when that happens. And I think what's happening here is you're having to deal with a very complicated issue, and you're having to have the federal government come in and remove people who are here illegally, which they have the right to do. And uh, they don't need to be bombarded with violence when they're doing it. You want to protest and you want to stand peacefully and do your thing, fine, but that's not what's happening. The whole Antifa thing that's finally being taken care of, that wasn't taken care of, and the other nonsense. I think that both sides are blurring it so much that we can't get a good bearing on what's really happening. And listen, I'm not saying it's just the liberal networks who are doing it. I mean, the conservatives are doing the same thing. They're spinning their narrative as well. Um,
I'm
th-
I'm
there is something. Okay, mercy goes both ways, right? On the sense that mercy on the one hand is to offer compassionate care to people who need it, right? That's mercy.
mhm,
Mercy
mhm.
is also found in orderliness, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, so with that, I wanted to follow the contours of this comment that Howard is making here because I do think that there's a point here. So you would mean, from your perspective, albeit closer than I am, that there are no peaceful demonstrations. There are no
oh,
lawful demonstrations, or there are very few lawful demonstrations. That the majority of this is, if you were there on the street, you would just see unlawful people who are attacking the police, being encouraged to attack DHS officers, and that there's no injustices that are taking place?
Well, no, come on. You can't speak so sweeping, Erskine, because there are some
Well,
who
you
are
just did a couple of times when you spoke,
How did I do that?
when you were framing it as people who are unlawfully going out, and
There are people who are I would say the
there certainly
majority
are, but there
are.
certainly are
Ma-
not people who are doing that, right?
Yeah, but there's many of them who are. And when you're being
So you would say the
incited
majority
by,
of people are unlawfully protesting.
I would say there's a lot more than there's not. And when you're being incited by your governor to do it, it just gives you more credence to do it.
I don't know,
When
Jason.
when the governor is telling you to go out and to fight back, and when the mayor of Chicago is telling the police to not be involved and to not do its thing, you have now a cooperation between the state and this group of unlawful citizens who are now attacking or going after the federal agents. That's the wrong cooperation.
And I totally, completely agree with you. I think that there's irresponsibility and some accountability on the part of the mayor.
And I would say that
Irresponsibility and
crowd,
accountability.
Erskine, is the majority crowd. This is happening.
Hang on a second. Hang on one second. Because the video that I was just showing,
Businesses sharing information about people's rights
these
during immigration
businesses that are
enforcement.
sharing
I've never seen
information, these
immigration
businesses that are
enforcement
putting
done
up
it.
flyers, those people don't exist. They're not
Well,
actually
no.
going out and with signs and with lawful means going out and sharing information about what's going on.
Well, I didn't say they didn't exist. Erskine, we're not hearing each other right now. I'm saying the majority of the people are the unlawful.
And again, I don't know, but it seems like you're discounting. I guess that's the part that I'm a little confused about. It seems like you're discounting the fact that there are people who are doing lawful things. Like for instance, when we had a lot of social unrest around George Floyd, and we went downtown and there were people who were protesting, there were all sorts of people who were protesting.
Right.
There were also people who were not protesting violently. My
Right.
son and I went downtown and we protested. There were churches, there were people who were involved. This is kind of getting toward a question that I want to ask, uh, eventually, and I guess I can sort of seed it now, about the role and response of those who would be lawful people, i.e., you and I, Jason, our response to grievances, our response to upheaval. Can it be done in a lawful way, or will we just get combined with all the rest of the crazy people out there, and they would say, well, you're crazy because you were out there?
No, absolutely. You can be lawful. You can go and say we don't agree with this. I have no problems with that. But the problem is the group that is stirring this up is becoming more emboldened to where now it's becoming the norm to just become violent and to attack.
Okay.
It's in Portland, it's in Chicago, it's in these sanctuary cities where these progressive ideologies have the most root, where you can go and really not suffer any consequences or hard enough consequences for your actions for doing this. This is not new to Chicago. This has been going on for a long time. And now when you're having to actually peacefully protest something you disagree with, um, the city's become so violent that I'm not even sure people from the South and Illinois are even going anywhere near Chicago at this point
Okay.
because the city's just not safe. Now,
This
and I will tell you that you have to go. You can't just listen to Fox News and CNN News. You have to go through independent resources to kind of find out the gist of what's going on in Chicago, and you have to do some work to figure out these things. And as I've just kind of been watching from afar, and I've been watching through these independent sources, my reason is, and I'm saying that the majority is now becoming this violent group. It's
I
becoming
don't
now
know.
anytime an ICE agent shows up, it's
Sure.
going to get ugly.
I wasn't saying I don't know to you. I was just saying I don't know if I should put this comment on the screen, but we have talked about this at length, and so I think you'll be able to respond to Howard, who's watching this and saying, differentiate for me the crowd that then gets angry or has some angry elements in it from this crowd that has some good people in it, as well as some people who are angry and inciting violence and doing things that are unlawful. Differentiate if you would please, and so I can show some other responses.
Between the insurrection crowd at the Capitol, is that what he's
Yeah.
asking? I don't necessarily agree with the group at the Capitol. I think they crossed major lines the moment they entered the federal building. I I don't I don't I don't call that insurrection. I think you and I have had that conversation. I thought it was stupid and dumb, and I think it was incited by stupidity. They crossed serious lines when they entered into the Capitol building when they were um, protesting or doing whatever. The only I don't know difference I can kind of maybe see is even though I think that they crossed lines and they broke the law, is that they weren't nearly as violent as these protests are. Um, but I mean they still broke the law. They still shouldn't have entered the Capitol building. They shouldn't have rushed like that and did all that.
Very good. I wanted to get some response from some brothers. Some brothers talking about what's going on here in Chicago, and I think
I guess why is Trump the common denominator? Pritzker? Are
oh,
you kidding me? What about Pritzker?
let's get that
Tell
Trump the common
tell me
denominator.
Howard. Tell me
I'm
Howard
not
how
just going to sneak
Pritzker
that
is
on the
not
screen.
how
Let's
Pritzker
go.
is not the common denominator in this whole thing. Him and people who espouse these progressive ideologies that are just it's a cancer to our state.
Well,
Let me hear
I
that.
think in the larger discussion, there would be many people on one side who would be shouting, kind of what you alluded to at the beginning. Actually, this is Biden's situation,
This is Biden's situation. He created all this nonsense.
and so then you have the Trump people. Well, Trump is the one who's actually enforcing the law, and I guess Howard and the other people who are out there, um, there comes a day when the law is being skirted and averted and denounced, even that when somebody actually enforces the law, now I'll jump in and insert myself. When someone actually enforces the law, that may look a lot of different ways, but it's definitely not going to look, until things get cleaned up, peaceful,
Uh,
copacetic. I
yeah,
think what has happened in Chicago, and this is kind of setting up the soundbite that I'm talking about, what has happened in Chicago and some of these other sanctuary cities is a safe haven for unlawful um, residency in the United States has happened. And now we're trying to untangle, we're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak. And what is happening here is people are having a difficult time understanding why this needs to happen, and that this needs to happen. And so I think that's part of the discussion here. I want to hear from some brothers real quick, Jason. I
well,
know
hold
you
on
got a
a
lot to
second.
say here.
Before you get Tim, just the other side of this coin too. When we talked about this as Biden's problem, I think this is also Pritzker's lack of leadership. And the mayor is it Hayden? I just lost his name of Chicago. The other side of this is there is a real issue here about immigration that needs to be addressed as far as taking care of people. But when you create these sanctuary cities, um, and you don't condemn the violence, and you kind of encourage this protest that gets heated, right? You're essentially creating a home for people like Antifa.
This is a good
In these
discussion.
crazy
Folks,
extremist
jump in
ideologies.
today.
Um,
I'm sorry,
um,
I was doing a little color commentary. Keep
uh,
going.
it's creating these kind of anarchist, left wing, crazy ideologies that can come in and feed off this violence, and there's no leadership to stop them either. And you're seeing that. You're seeing that in Portland. You're seeing that in Chicago. This is becoming a safe haven for radicalism that is going to essentially disrupt the real moral cause that you're trying to accomplish here. And then I don't hear any kind of accountability to that.
I'm so glad that you used the word accountability. I'm from the great nation of Texas. Is there some accountability for Governor Abbott and perhaps others who encouraged these illegal folks who are coming into our country? Let's get them on buses. Let's send them to some of these places that are not dealing with the issue. Send them to DC, send them to Chicago, and further igniting a little bit of the flame here by just filling the city with an influx of people who are not residents of the city, and then obviously poor leadership that is around that needs to be held accountable. But is some of this unwise political machinations that are trying to incite a response, at least?
Oh, this is bad leadership all around, right? You're dealing with people's lives. You're going to ship them all over the country, right? You're not dealing. You're like, I was not. I understand the sentiment behind it, right? If you're going to be a sanctuary city and you want to have all these pigs, fine. We're going to send them to your city and you can take care of them,
So
right?
you would say that that was
No,
unwise.
I get the sentiment. I get it. I think it's bad leadership. I think it's bad. It's not the proper solution because you are still dealing with people, human beings, families, and even though you're going to ship them to Chicago or ship them to DC, and what's going to happen there is they're going to do something with them, and it may not even be the best solution. Instead, if you're going to be consistent with the law, deport them back, like you said you're going to. Um, it just put more fuel on the fire, and it
Mm.
didn't send a consistent message. I think that hey, we are actually committed to our policy of immigration. We're just going to ship them across the United States, and it was a political move, right? It was
Sure.
and it's like the guys who go around, the influencers who say, "Hey, would you house an illegal immigrant in your house? Oh, I got a couple right here. Here you can go. They can live in your house," and puts them on the spot. It's just not viable. It's not we're not talking about real solutions now. We're just being petty and ridiculous, and we're messing with people's lives.
So let's do this today. Let's do this today and follow that trail all the way back. That was perhaps unwise and unhelpful, and I totally agree with you, Jason. We're dealing with people's lives here. But you tell somebody, I'm going to ship you to Chicago, and you're going to get a house and $10,000 on a food stamps and
Yeah,
some things to take care of your family. You're like, where's that bus at? What time does it leave?
yeah.
And
You're
you
gonna give
own
me a
that
place to
bus.
stay. You're gonna give me food. You're gonna give me a cell phone. You're gonna give
Oh,
me
my kids can go to school tomorrow. All right, we
yeah,
good. We good. Come on, y'all. We getting on the bus.
yeah.
So I understand from various vantage points how they're not looking at that immediately and thinking, oh, this is going to be a problem. And then they end up in a place where, again, let's just follow the chain of command. The Governor Abbott, we call his name out here, makes an unwise decision, but that is prompted by, and we must hasten to say this, a Biden administration that is unwilling to actually enforce borders, is actually willing to enforce the law in the state of Texas and blocking in various ways Texas's desire to not only stop the flood of illegal legal immigration, but to deport and send people back and identify people who have committed crimes. This goes back to the Biden administration. And I know that people want to throw Trump up there on the screen and throw Trump under the bus, so to speak, pun intended. But this goes back to a Biden administration that was extremely lax on borders.
Bro, I just have no idea where Howard's coming from. Exactly. Trump has stirred up the pot with this hateful rhetoric. Do you live in Illinois, Howard? Do you live here?
Wait, I
Like,
don't even see this comment. Where's this comment coming from?
you
Oh,
have
you're
some
looking at the
people
comments
who
on.
act
I
out
didn't even
with
put this on the
hatred and
screen.
discrimination that's already there, and they're feeling entitled because of Trump. Listen, I live here. JB Pritzker is notorious for
Oh,
his
let me get this on the screen so people know what we're talking
awful
about here.
rhetoric. His awful rhetoric.
What are we
He,
fighting about this morning?
the mayor of Chicago, his rhetoric is outrageous. It's outrageous. They should be indicted. The leadership of stirring up this nonsense, and there's no accountability for these men. None. It doesn't make any sense to me. And listen, Howard, Erskine and I have been very critical at times of Trump's leadership and character things, and I think we can say that we've tried to hold a fairly balanced view of the man. Try, okay? And I've gone notoriously and said when it was Twitter that Trump's Twitter account's going to get us all killed because he just says these outrageous things at times, right? So I have no doubt in my mind that Trump's rhetoric is often sometimes outlandish, but I have not seen any self-control on the progressive liberal side at all. At all. And with JB Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago and the progressive side, there is no self-control in their rhetoric. So the stones that you're casting on Trump's pond, you've got to cast on your own first, because that's fueling this as much, I mean, as anything. So
That is not helpful.
that is not.
I wonder, and this may not be. And Tom, I'm glad you're well enough to make crazy comments in the comment section. Oh, I love it. Tom is back to being Tom, and I appreciate that. I'm going to play this, and I wonder if there are people who are out there who are thinking, well, this issue is just simply one in which the politicians and this sort of upper realm of conversation are having, and it's kind of inciting people and making a lot of mess in Chicago. And we certainly see that in Chicago and some other places. But then let me get a little bit closer to home and hear some residents speak. I want to get one vantage point from residents in Chicago, and I have to apologize. I think they use a wordy dirt in the video that I'm about to show, but I think it shows the nature of kind of what is going on the streets, and maybe a way, Howard, and perhaps others, that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So here's soundbite number one. Play that one.
The migrants. We can't say that the emergency justifies dehumanization of people.
No, this is not the right soundbite. My bad. Sorry. I want to get the brothers. I want to get the brothers out in the street. Oh, here we go. The residents speak.
When are y'all going to wake up and realize the politicians y'all chose sold us out for illegal immigrants? Salute to Jamal Green, man, because I didn't like Jamal Green at one time, because he was all for the immigrants at first till he started realizing, oh, man, these people getting free housing, cars, jewelry, everything, while Americans gets nothing, all right? And they dumped them in your neighborhood. That video y'all seen on 75th and South Shore with them ICE agents going in there taking out them immigrants, that's what we voted for. Y'all was just crying on 75th and South Shore, talking about how they took over y'all building. Boy, I tell you right now, we got a lot of sellouts in the black community. Y'all better wake y'all ass up. If it wasn't for Trump, America would be over, and starting with the black community. They ain't dumped none of them on the north side and these other people community. They ain't dump them in nobody community but yours. And y'all fighting for them to keep taking y'all benefits. Oh, man. Boy, I tell you right now, we're in trouble. The black community in trouble. And it's all because of y'all some slow dumps. Look, Governor Pritzker, you're not going to win again. Mayor Brandon Johnson, you're not going to win again. People starting to wake up.
Black people in Chicago, let's get this clear for the record so nobody is confused, right? In 2020 and 2021, when Democrats, specifically Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, flooded Chicago with the illegal, undocumented criminal invaders, y'all didn't have nothing to say about that, right? When the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, gave them benefits, millions, prepaid EBT cards with $10,000 on it, prepaid Visa cards, 6 months worth of free rent, free healthcare, free childcare. Y'all were okay with that. And then you all continue to be okay with it by going out and voting for Kamala Harris to continue what she was doing with the open borders, right? Now that ICE is there to actually do something about it, right? With Trump's mandate, now you all are boohoo, whining and crying, complaining that ICE is coming to black neighborhoods. What the hell is wrong with y'all?
All right. So I think there's a common theme there.
Yeah.
Jason, anyone that's watching today, maybe that informs the discussion to a certain degree, and a little bit of what it is that we've been touching on. We're going to get back to the human component. Don't think that we're not going to get back to the human component in decisions that are being made and wisdom about those kind of things. But let's just rest in this moment for just a second. Folks waking up to the reality, I've said it in a very colorful way, but folks waking up to the reality that law enforcement looks a certain way. Permissiveness looks a certain way and has looked a certain way in Chicago and some of these other cities for a long time. People have wanted that. People have celebrated that until they recognize what the implications of that was. And now law enforcement actually keeping the law, enforcing the law, now looks another certain way. Jason, thoughts, comments?
Well, I mean, they're showing the practicality. It's kind of a pragmatic comment, right? It's if you do this, these are the consequences, and now they're seeing the consequences, and they're like, hey, we don't like this. It's expensive, it's costly, and it seems to be, even though it seems like it's compassion, you're having to take away from some of your people who need those resources as well, who actually are citizens who live here, been here for a long time, and you're taking away from them to give to somebody who did not enter the country legally. That's a hard pill to swallow. It's a very hard pill to swallow, and it's this is why, like, there's just, again, there's this tension, right? Because compassion without law is going to invite harm, but at the same time, law without compassion deforms justice. And I don't see how the policies that are being put forth hold that tension very well.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it. And then frankly, I'm not happy. I wasn't happy with it on the conservative side, and I'm definitely not happy with the progressive liberal side. And I'm particularly not happy with the media, who is not taking a look at this issue from its merits. It's now just trying to jockey for whatever political position we can put so that we can take advantage of the situation. And I'm just, that's it. We're not getting anywhere, except we're just destroying each other. And our leadership, Pritzker's got to go. The mayor of Chicago's got to go. Like, it's absurd, absolutely absurd. And I'll tell you what's really going to happen is when I don't know. America's funny because you can do things to a lot of people, and you can even turn a blind eye to some things, right? But what happens when you start seeing the children get hurt, right? I think America's got a soft spot for that. Is that what it's going to take? Is our children getting hurt for all this to stop, or what?
And what side do you mean, children being hurt?
I mean, when you start seeing immigrant children getting hurt and you start seeing your own American citizens' children, this is going to ripple down to the most vulnerable. I mean, the most vulnerable eventually. It's going to. For instance, one of the things I think when I look back on history, and I think one of the turning points of the civil rights movement, right, in the 60s, is Martin Luther King was on to something. Peaceful protest, right? Keep it peaceful and do not retaliate. Because the more America watched these people get brutally hurt, the more the conscience tendered. And I think one of the things that happened was when America began watching these children get hosed down with fire hoses and dogs sicked on them and things like that, it was enough. That's it. We've had it to some degree, right? And I think that you began to see when the most vulnerable are being destroyed and hurt, that we've hit a low. I'm just curious if that's going to happen with this, because I know there are children being affected. I just think about them. I'm in school, and I think about these kids who were trying to grow up to be healthy adults, and what this is doing to them, and then what's it doing to the kids in our community. And I'm just curious. It's just a thought I had about,
Yeah.
when this stuff
Well,
hits the most vulnerable, when this stuff hits the most weak, is our
that's
conscience tender enough
that's
to realize that we got to stop?
yeah, that's what I'm hearing from some folks that are responding, maybe not even on the level of the political realm and the political sphere. And, we're kind of doing a little deeper work, and we're kind of tracing it back to this administration or this policy or this, Lori Lightfoot, her name was mentioned in all this. And obviously she has some culpability in all of this. The recent, not recent, but former mayor of Chicago. But here's a comment from Dr. Reverend Terrence Gadsden, who wanted to make some comments, and I thought they would be appropriate in the show. They pick up a little bit on that, but we've responded to some of this, but I wanted to just go ahead and play this. I don't have the audio where I can just punch it, so I got to play it from my phone. So hopefully the audio is good enough for you guys to hear this. And then I want to move toward the way forward and some solutions for Christians.
Yo, as a campus pastor here in Chicago of a local university and a citizen of the United States, I am angered and enraged the way that ICE agents have come into the city of Chicago. They've come to the city of Chicago fully armed, masked, no identification, jumping out of regular cars, detaining and harassing people. I'm talking about United States citizens, people who are Hispanic, Black, brown. They have been terrorizing people, detaining people for 5, 8 to 10 hours with no food, no water, and we don't know where they've been located or they've been taken to. And so people are pushing back because that's not right. We're talking about people who are United States citizens. I know personally people who have been detained and they've told ICE agents that, yo, I have documentation. I'm a United States citizen. And ICE agents have said, shut up, I don't care about that. And so we're talking about people's constitutional rights that have been ignored. ICE agents have broken into people's homes and their cars. And that's not being talked about. And as a pastor, my angle is that everyone has been created in the image and likeness of God, and everyone deserves respect and should be honored and have dignity. And that's not being displayed by these ICE agents. And people are enraged because that's not right. You can't come into someone's house without a warrant. You can't arrest someone without probable cause. And these things are happening. And people are saying, hey, I'm a United States citizen. And they're not being treated with respect. And so there's anger and there's fear. And so, and as a follower of Christ, we should all be angered and enraged the way that people are being treated. And that's not being talked about enough. And so something has to be done differently. This is not right.
Your response.
Well, I'm sure. I think it's a bit subjective, but my first thoughts are anybody who's an American citizen who gets caught up in this is going to have the grounds to legally work that out, right? I mean, if you're caught up in this and you're an American citizen, then I think you're going to have the legal grounds to push back, and I think you even have the environment to do it. Second of all, like you said earlier, I think some of this, what is going to be the way to go and handle this problem? No matter what you do, you're not going to like it. You got to come in and arrest people. Now, I don't know about if they're entering homes illegally. If that is the case, then they're going to have that thing thrown out because the court system's already been doing that. But my suspicion is that that these ICE agents are not idiots and they have their paperwork in order to some degree to make this work. To what degree, I don't know. But anytime you're having to go and arrest people and you have to, nobody likes watching anybody get arrested. I would like to think nobody likes to watch anybody get arrested, especially for, immigration. But I think it's just it's an unsavory situation. And I get he's right there in the city. So, I mean, he sees it and he hears it and he has to deal with it directly. And so he's got a legitimate perspective from that angle. But I think there's more to it than just that. I don't think they're just going out to arrest American citizens. They're going after illegal immigrants.
Sure.
I'm saying, like, it's very easy just to kind of just lump it all together and like, they're going after American. No, they're going after illegal immigrants, and does sometimes mistakes happen? Yeah, and then there's going to be a recourse for that. But it's a bad situation that was developed because leadership did not take action previously. Now that leadership is taking action, it's messy.
Yeah.
Really messy.
And on that, I don't have anything to add. I think that you summed that up well. I think the part where maybe I'm seeing a little bit of gray in this, and again, you guys know I love black and white. If it's wrong, just get them. If it's right, do it. I would love to to stand in the gap and just say this. I don't know what continuum of rage people are operating at or how they should be enraged. I don't know that that would necessarily be the way that I would respond. But I do think that the issue of fear and intimidation is one in which I think that perspective and nuance, I guess you would say, if Jason, if I'm not doing anything wrong and police officers come in and they say, we have, probable cause that you did this, it upset my kids, my family, you know, I'm a legal citizen. I've done nothing wrong. I mean, I do a live stream show that gets a little spicy from time to time, but I've done nothing legally wrong.
Right.
The intimidation and nature of me being upset, certainly I can go to court and I can get any charge dismissed. But I don't think that this is a situation where people are saying, oops, we made a mistake. Sorry about that. We'll go to the next house. It was actually 2 doors down. And I think that there's that human component that I look at and I think there is a lot of unrest that, maybe collateral damage. Maybe we would go ahead and say, like, they're not going to bat 1,000 on this.
No, they're not.
And I do understand that. And I do respect that, and that they're trying to do a very difficult job. And I am on the side of enforcing the law. Both of us are on the side of enforcing the law. As a Christian, you should be on the side of enforcing the law.
Right.
But to your point, where I think the nuance happens is for, there's one young man that was being detained on the ground. He had all of his documents. They were in his backpack. We don't care about what's in the backpack. Get on the ground. Like those kind of things, seeing people treated a particular way, I think is what Terrence is speaking to, and a little bit of what has me hesitate and go, oh, I don't know. In the collateral damage, to your point, Jason, if it starts affecting kids, I've been hearing reports of, parents are getting ripped away. Their kids are standing there crying. They don't know what's going on there. There's no aid or comfort for the kids that are there. There's a lot more nuance to this than just, hey, parent, you're illegal. Get them out of here. Take them away. What do you do with that kid that's crying there and doesn't understand what's going on?
Yeah.
And so I'm all for the law. I'm all for holding people accountable. I'm all for calling out ignorant leadership like you have it in Illinois and in some of the highest levels of government. But I do think that as a Christian, I have a moral responsibility to care for and at least be concerned about the least of these and what the implications of massive law enforcement does to the least of these.
Well, I think it's only going to get this is going to take an interesting turn at some point, because the very rule of law that we advocate for, right? Because we want to uphold that, is going to be the same law that arrests Christians eventually. So,
that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, well, I mean,
the end of this show is the beginning of another show. We're going to 2 hours today.
When you start advocating for the state to obey its laws, to do its thing, right? And that we can, we want federal agents going in there to arrest those who are unlawful, which we do. We're also acknowledging that it's going to be the same state that eventually arrests Christians. It's going to happen.
He's dropping bombs at the end of the show.
So I just, I got to keep that tension always in my heart, because as much as I want to support the rule of law, which I do, and it's tried it in its purest sense, I also know when I read my Bible that it's going to be the state eventually who says that Christians are not lawful. And it's not going to matter if you're an immigrant or whatever. It's going to be based on something else. You just wait until another administration takes over that decides to respond with its own repercussions, because that's going to happen. Because we're not using wisdom, we're not using integrity and honesty and all those things. We're not using the proper value system to measure this out. There's going to be repercussions to this. It's going to happen, and so as much as I want to advocate for the rule of law and America and our value system, right now we're literally watching it played out, and I'm not really impressed with what I'm seeing on either side. So we can keep that in common, Howard and Tom and Terrence. Yeah, we'll have that in common together. So
we'll all be in jail together
That's right.
If the law could
Eventually.
be changed to reflect, and where he's going with this, just so we're clear, where he's going with this is essentially saying if the law can be changed to indicate that the way that we're speaking about things in relationship to Jesus and following biblical mandate, biblical worldview somehow transgresses the law, if that law can be created, then that same law can be used to penalize us, to intimidate
Right.
us, to incarcerate
Yep.
us. And so, yeah, Jason, I'm glad that you could bring that to a positive note there for us.
Yeah.
Couple of moments of this, and then we'll do the way forward, and then we'll be out for today. I got to get Cleveland, Tennessee. I'm coming. I'm coming, Cleveland, Tennessee. Concert today.
And the humane treatment of migrants. We can't say that the emergency justifies dehumanization of people.
Chicago has been filled with the presence of federal immigration agents in the city. They've deployed tear gas with no warning. They've raided apartment buildings where they zip-tied residents for hours, including U.S. citizens. They literally went in and zip-tied every single person in the building. They've handcuffed a city council member at a hospital after she asked to see an arrest warrant for a detainee.
The prophetic role of the church is to tell the state that it answers to a higher authority. And the higher authority that the state answers to is, in fact, God, who has something to say about how you treat other human beings.
The apartment.
All right, I'm going to stop that there. Way forward takeaways.
Well, I agree that the church needs to tell the state that it does answer to a higher authority.
Oops.
But there has to also be this component where we have to trust the Lord, because when you have to teach the Bible, the whole Bible ethic, right? On the one hand, Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Hebrew tell us to welcome the sojourner. Okay, so that we have to be a people who welcome the sojourner, the immigrant, the poor, the tired, the hungry. That's what we're called to do. On the other hand, we're also called to honor the magistrate in Romans 13, 1-7. We're called to seek the city's good in Jeremiah 29. And we're called to walk in truth and grace in John 1, 14. So these are all things we have to hold in tension together as the church. We have to be the mediator of mercy and order to some degree, which means you're going to have to elect leaders who uphold those same values if you want this to move forward in any kind of better way. You can't just jump on Trump's bandwagon, and you can't just jump on J.B. Pritzker's bandwagon, because I think the value system is not holding the line biblically. So you're going to have to pray and think long and hard about leaders who are able to recognize the tension of the sojourner and the magistrate, and who are proving through their voting record and their actions that they seek the city's good, and they're seeking to walk in truth and grace. And so I have not been impressed with the American church's discernment on this level for a while, and it's got me concerned, really, for the future. I think that we have to the church has to be also that bridge between the law enforcement and the community, in the sense that we need to honor our police officers and yet hold them accountable, and we need to feed the poor and yet also recognize that violence is not going to make it. I mean, I think that's what most impressed me about Martin Luther King, was he just had this sustaining commitment that justice in its purest form did not need to exercise a violent hand. And I think I could walk away with that. And so I think the church, the way forward in this particular area is, I think we have to model the tension between the sojourner and honoring the magistrate. I think we have to do our best to seek the city's good as a whole. And then we have to walk in truth and grace with one another and our community and our leadership. And we have to pray for better leaders, stronger leaders. And we actually, not just pray for them, we need to raise them up. We need to raise them up before it's too late.
Amen. That was awesome. Let me see here. Folks, you're not going to like what it is that I have to say. Well, maybe you will like what it is that I have to say, because what I have to say is actually harder than what it is that we've been doing. It's a discipleship issue that comes down to the fact that we need to actually pay attention to politics. You mean pay attention to politics that are not just the election every 4 years? Yeah, there's other elections that take place. And the principle of subsidiary elections means your local elections. That means your school board. That means a lot of different things that sometimes we choose to say, well, we'll just let other people figure those kind of things out. We won't invest the hard work, and I'm talking to myself also, of figuring out who are local elected. When Jason's talking about raising up leaders, I'm not just going straight to the White House, although I'm going to the White House, but I'm not just going straight to the White House. There's going to be local things that I'm going to need to do, prove myself over time. And so too begins the journey of, you mean we can't just be on vacation all the time? You mean we got to actually study this stuff? You mean we got to actually talk about this? Where in the world is there a discipleship program where a pastor has his people so engaged that they are willing to say, you know what, I've got to biblically figure out how I should respond to the sojourner, and how I should respond to the state, and how I should go about living out my life so that I'm raising up and producing godliness to the third and fourth generation? That is a discipleship program that we often will shy away from, because it means that we have to be, here's what you're not going to like, you have to be involved. You have to actually care. You have to be invested in the things of this world. And sometimes people want to just say, you know what, it'll all just work out. It'll all just pan out. The Lord is going to come back. I'll be raptured. I won't have to worry about it. All of these different dodges that we have, whether they be a theological dodge, a cultural dodge, a political dodge. Like one gentleman said, I'm not going to say it the way that he said it, but I think this is that sort of church. Wake the hell up and figure out that these things are going on around you, and you can flip the channel off. You can scroll down to the next story, but that doesn't mean that all the things that are going on in Chicago and other places in our country are not happening. They are happening. So here's your choice. You either are engaged in those things, biblically praying about those things, raising up leaders, being a voice that can advocate for truth, or you're just going to keep scrolling down to the next story. And then when you don't like another story, you're going to scroll down to another story. My plea is that we, as followers of Jesus Christ, adopt the understanding that God is in control of all of this, and he tells his people how we can live in this world to glorify King Jesus, to make much of the name of Christ, to advance the kingdom of God. And he tells us in the Great Commission that he will be with us even until he returns. So that would be my press for the way forward, is that we would be urged to be involved in discipleship at a deeper level, and then culturally engaged at a more faithful level. Where's my button?
Amen.
And you got this from Howard.
Hey, thank you, Howard. Appreciate that. We'll have to connect sometime and talk more.
Yeah, come on down to Nashville, my friend. All these folks are around.
Is Howard down in Nashville?
Yeah, my man Howard. He's down in Nashville. Howard, we need to get together. We're both in Nashville. We haven't gotten together in a while. I want to thank everybody that's participated in the way forward today. Got a little spicy there for a second, and that's exactly the way that we like it. That's why we do this. We take on tough topics that the world and the church often is not talking about. And then from the vantage point of followers of Christ, we want to try to figure out how we move forward with these things to the glory of King Jesus. Another great episode, Jason. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
On the way out, ERSKIN. We out.